allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first presentation will be by BET Investments, 625 Ridge Pike. Peter Clellan. Thank you.
We will do the best we can here to center this on the screen. Good evening. Peter Clellan from BET Investments, just here for a return visit. I know we were here a couple months ago with sort of an initial foray into this proposed project at the Conshohocken Ridge office complex for a redevelopment of that property. A couple of questions were asked at that prior meeting about traffic and taxes and an affordability type component of the project. So I will run through slides that we saw the last time just to refamiliarize you with the site and what we talked about previously, and then we'll go to those questions that were asked before and the information that we were able to get in the meantime. So the site at the corner of Cowell Lane and Ridge Pike, just off the 476 North interchange, as discussed previously, with the proposed development shown in the purple and green on the western side of the site. Includes demolishing the 3 office buildings on that side of the site, maintaining the access points that exist. Again, the ground floor, we have the retail component in the purple with parking behind, structured parking behind, and access into the proposed apartments. Upper floor of the parking, first floor of the residential above the retail and parking with rooftop amenity spaces and units and interior amenities in yellow. Then a typical floor above that. The unit mix has not changed since our last visit here that we were discussing. The renderings, I think you saw these last time with the space. So Ridge Pike is off to the right, 476 is in the background behind the building. This would be a view more from the 476 side of the property as you're approaching. Very high aerial view, not one that you would probably see as a pedestrian, but helps put some context on it for how the building works with the parking in the back and underneath, and then the retail towards the Ridge Pike side. So you had asked previously about how the traffic would compare to what we were demolishing. So on the left are the existing uses on the site, roughly 200,000 square feet of mixed regular and medical office spaces with the trips that are generated, total trips that are generated for it, as well as peak hour trips that are kind of off to the right side of the page. In the proposed condition, we're retaining 120,000 square feet of the office, 25,000 of the medical. So it's a reduction of about 50,000 square feet of office, a little bit of which is medical, and then replacement obviously with the 200 apartments and the grocery store, and we allowed for a restaurant use in the other space. It does increase obviously the daily total trips, and then if you look at the peak hour trips, we see that it's relatively comparable in the totals. A few more in the morning, a few less out. a few less new trips. And then in the weekday peak afternoon, there is a slight increase in both categories. Relative to the volumes on the roads, relatively insignificant. But it is comparable to what we're taking down there, aside from the daily total, which are obviously spread out over a longer period of time. So we also had our fiscal consultant take a look at the vacant office that's there and the taxes that are being generated by that compared to what would be generated by the proposed development. This chart puts together those numbers for you so you can see that there is a significant increase to the school district revenue as well as to the township. And then finally, as I mentioned, we had been asked to talk about the affordability of the housing units, and there seems to be a push for making units affordable for certain professionals within the townships, firefighters, police, first responders. So we talked to our fair housing attorney consultant about whether we could do this, and they do believe that this is fine. So what we're proposing is to set aside 10% of the units at a 15% discount for specifically those categories of employees. And we have it on fairly good authority from our attorney that that is acceptable under fair housing, and we will not get in trouble for that. So that's what we're proposing in that category. And we have not yet worked through the structure of a text amendment ordinance that would be necessary to facilitate this on the property, but now we just got that answer from our attorney in the last week. So that's obviously an important component to any text amendment that we would put forward, but just wanted to see if anybody had any questions on any of those slides as far as the traffic, the taxes, and this particular component that helps anybody form any more opinion than what was offered at the last presentation.
I'm going back to the tax page.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to quickly get a sense of current versus projected forward. So
This is not in totality. This is just compared to the office that's being demolished.
So net change.
The net change,
Net
right.
change. Thank you.
The 3 office buildings that you propose to demolish, are they currently occupied?
Not well occupied, no. The small one in front is empty. The 5,000 square foot one in front is empty. The other 2, I'm going to say, are roughly 25,000 square feet each. The first one directly behind that, let me see if I don't know if they really show very well on the aerial. Has a lease on a substantial, so kind of underneath the bottom part of the inverted F, I'll say there's a 25-ish thousand square foot office building. There's one tenant who I think their lease terminates in the next year. And then there's another tenant who has a substantial amount of space leased, but they're not there and expected to vacate. So that office building is more or less empty, or can be in the next 12 months. And then the one to the left of that, that's where the one medical office tenant is that would, I think they're like 2,000 square feet. It's like a dentist's office. And I think there's an optician in there as well, or ophthalmologist. And again, they don't, I think only one of them has a lease term that's longer than a couple, like a year or so.
Will the other medical offices, I know there are medical offices up there, are those buildings remaining and those tenants remaining?
In the front building, so
in
there's
other
Will's Eye,
buildings, I mean,
yeah.
How many
in the
buildings are there total? You propose
There's
to take
six.
down 3.
There's 6 total. Will's Eye, and then the emergency vet place are in that lower left building. Those are both anticipated to stay. And then in the rear angled building on the left is reasonably well occupied, and expected to stay that way. And then the one in the back that's kind of at the end of that inverted F, that has some more recent tenants in it.
Because I did hear from some, after your last presentation, I did hear from some people who were concerned about their businesses, would their buildings remain. And will there be medical office space in what you propose as the new development?
Not anticipated now.
So the mixed-use component would be retail and residential.
That building would be retail and residential, and then obviously we have an office already on site that we're proposing to retain.
Can you remind us how many apartment units?
200.
Do you have a projected, like, rent that you're charging?
We typically see about $2.50 a square foot. Our units range from 1,000 to 1,300 square feet. So in that, I mean, some of the one bedrooms maybe get just under 1,000 square feet, maybe like 900. So we're in that like just under 2,000 to 2,600 kind of range.
I should be more familiar with this property. Where's the main entrance? Is it onto Ridge? Like Ridge to the property?
There's a right-in, right-out driveway to Ridge, kind of right at the end of the lighter gray area where the letter L is in Colwell.
Right.
And then there's another driveway on Colwell as well.
So you anticipated the additional traffic, it looked like there's about 1,700 additional trips per day.
Daily trips, yes.
What, practically speaking, over the course of a day, what does that look like? Is that like half in the morning when people head to work or school, half in the evening?
Well, and that's why we do the morning peak hour and afternoon peak hour stuff, because it's not a dramatic change in either of the weekday peak hours, so it is fairly spread out throughout the day. I didn't bother to do the math on like a 12-hour day, but a little over 100 trips an hour, I guess, if you average it out.
And do those trips contemplate both the residential people as well as the supermarket and restaurant and all the others?
Yes.
Sounds like they'd be
So in
traffic all day and night, pretty much then? Not late night, but evening.
There would certainly be more in the evening than now, because with the offices, they tend to shut down at 5, 6 o'clock, and the grocery and retail would expect you to take that, more towards the 9, 10 o'clock time frame when they're open. And then the apartments obviously spread out over the course of the day as well. Particularly with more people working from home, working from their apartment, but then going out in the middle of the day to do their non-work tasks. Not that anybody does that.
So maybe this is a crazy question, but if there was no residential, does the mixed use, does having some like supermarket, restaurants, does that kind of space, is that appealing, or that only works in the plan if there's residential?
The grocery tenant is very enthralled by the idea of having captive shoppers. And restaurants tend to be that way as well.
Would the proposed grocery store no longer be interested if there were no apartments there? strictly
I don't know that I can answer that. You want to ask that question?
questions from anybody?
Okay.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate your time and your rearranging for me. Anything I gotta do before I shut this off?
You can just. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, an announcement that prior to our regular meeting on June the 10th, beginning at 6 p.m., there will be a text amendment ordinance public hearing and meeting for text amendment involving Priet at the property dealing with the Plymouth Meeting Law. There will be a 30 years of service resolution for Rick Cabo at our regular meeting. Unless anyone objects, I'd like to take that one.
Go for it.
Thanks. All right. There will be an RCO amendment draft ordinance first consideration.
Mike.
Mike, okay, thank you. And first consideration of the single-use plastic reduction ordinance.
That will also be
That's
Mike.
also Mike. Anything else from administration? Under police and public safety, we will have a resolution to amend the towing fee schedule. And anyone can take that? Is
Anyone
that
can take that.
Right, anyone want to take the?
I can take it.
Okay, Kristen, will take that one. Okay, next under consideration will be the Plymouth Fire Company loan. Did you want to make a presentation, Shelley, or?
Sheldon Simpson, President of the Fire Company, and Jack Laniak's with me, our treasurer. Just going to go over a couple of things. Our new truck is due in October. We have some payments due to save $12,000 by an early payment, so we're asking for a withdrawal from our fund. But,
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Try to be brief as Shelley and I both are present or requested at a Little League baseball game across the field here. Championships are being played tonight, so we'll try to be brief.
Jogging uphill, huh?
Well, life gets in the way, let's face it. Okay?
That's important.
But thank you for hearing us tonight. We, Plymouth Fire Company, back in the budget process, we asked council to consider a loan fund to, to finance part of the truck that's due. It's been quite a process over the couple of years. We finally have a target due date for the delivery, which is October 2nd. Tonight, I handed Kellen official letters for him and Karen for a withdrawal from our apparatus township account, which he has. I also sent in a memo for you all, I believe you got, regarding some of the terms of the loan we were looking for. Okay, the withdrawal from our township account, that is due to be paid by the end of June, so we can save, get a discount of $12,780, I believe, off the price of the truck by paying for the chassis ahead of time. Then, of course, the loan would be part of the final payment on or about October 2nd of this year when the truck is actually delivered. The vehicle that we're purchasing comes in at a price of $907,000 and not getting any cheaper. This truck is replacing 2 vehicles, one of which has already been sold, and the proceeds from that are being applied to the purchase price of this truck. Once it's in service, we anticipate selling the second vehicle, which should be somewhere toward the end of this year, early 2025. Okay, so back in the budget process, we asked council to consider a $250,000 loan. We're looking for that for a 10-year term. We'd like it to be an annual payment. Okay, that would be better for our cash flow purposes, but of course we're subject to whatever terms you want to talk about. Questions?
Would you consider a shorter term loan, like 5 years, as opposed to 10, or is 10 something that you've kind of settled into your budget?
10 is about 50% of the truck's life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's based on our projections for where the funds are going to come from. Okay, we anticipate using funds from our township solicitation, and while that's been a little over $25,000 over the last couple of years, that's the purpose for the 10 years. Okay, so we know that we can meet that obligation every year, for sure. I mean, hopefully we'll pay it off earlier because there's other trucks coming down the line. But, you know, that's the reason. We're looking at the worst case scenario, and the 10-year, $25,000 a year type payment would be something we know we can do.
Fair enough, thank you. Safe to assume 0% interest?
What's that?
Safe to assume you're looking for 0% interest?
Yes.
So no benefit to prepayment, right?
Well, as
Get
I
the money
said-
back faster.
as I said, the funds are coming directly from donations. So that's, you know, any additional fees on top of that would, again, be taxing that source of income that we have.
Problem is, equipment's getting so much more expensive than it ever has been.
Oh, yes.
It's just not just the equipment, not just the truck, but the, outfit, firefighter, all the gear and stuff. It's getting just crazy. So we're trying to streamline as much as we can and do fundraising the best we can, but there's only so much you can do.
When we started this process, we were projecting the truck to cost $800,000. And we started several years ago. As a matter of fact, the truck's been on order for well over almost 3 years. They kept pushing the due date back. The manufacturers are so over their head in sales, if you will, that right now, if you were to order a truck today, you're talking 4 years. And that's, of course, prior to that, you got to do all your engineering, your plans, etc. So it's a long process now. And like I said, we wound up with $907,000 in that process. And the reason we ordered it when we did is because it was kind of funny because both Plymouth and Harmonville Fire Company were under the same situation when the trucks were ordered. If we didn't order within that 30-day period, they were going to increase the price 15%. They can get away with that.
Are there any grant possibilities out there from this Commonwealth, do you think?
What's that?
Any grant possibilities for vehicles? I don't know if there is such a thing.
Not for purchasing a truck.
No?
There's nothing else. I mean, the only fire companies that are getting any money towards vehicle purchase through the federal government are, how do I say this nicely, way out there in the boondocks. Okay? Fire companies in areas like this, not a chance. We actually suffered a little bit of a problem. We applied for an $80,000 grant, which was to be used for hydraulic equipment for this truck. We were told by the grant writer that we had an excellent chance of getting it, and then didn't.
Oh,
So that threw our budget a little bit out the window, because that $80,000, the equipment had to be bought. There was no question about that.
Sure.
Couldn't use the old equipment. And so we had to, basically absorb that cost into this too.
To answer your question, we do a lot of grant writing and get grants for whatever we can. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of fire companies and things out in Pennsylvania, people looking for money, so we're a very good grant writer, and we do well, but we just don't get everything we ask for.
And just to get involved, that of course the major program we go through, the Assistance to Firefighters Grants, a federal program, and it almost went down the tubes. The very last minute before it expired, Congress did finally approve it again. But we almost lost that whole grant process with what went on in Washington. But at the very last minute, they agreed to keep it going for a few more years.
okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, Shelley. Get
Thank
to
you
the
for your time.
get to the game. Good luck
Okay.
for your team.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Well, I guess it has to.
Any questions, you know where to find us. Thank you.
Right up there, right up the hill.
You would have further discussions before you take official action, because we would
Yeah.
have to put together an agreement for action once I get direction to draft it.
Okay. Anything else on the police, chief?
Actually, I did have two things real quick. Just, I know you're considering a resolution for the scheduled fees for towing, so I just wanted to let you know that we did do a comparison with surrounding townships to make sure that these fees were in line with theirs. We haven't addressed the fees in quite a long time, so you'll see that there's a decent jump, but they are in line with other agencies. And we did add something that I haven't seen in any of these others, but we felt it was important, so it's something for your consideration. It's under exceptions to daily storage fees, that we were not requiring storage fees when we impound vehicles. And take somebody's vehicle, whether they're a victim or they're the actor, we didn't think it was fair to take their vehicle for investigation, a search warrant, and then charge them storage fees while we have it. So what we ask is that when we release the vehicle, which is usually a couple days, at that point, the storage fees would start, because we thought that was fair. We also put in there that when a private citizen, not someone who has, insurance for the vehicle, but actually a private citizen is a victim of a crime and has their car towed, that their car is towed at a flat rate of $50, which is 25% of what the fee is normally. Again, you're a victim of a crime, why would you be victimized again? This doesn't happen that often that it's going to make that big of a big impact on the towing, whoever gets the towing contract, but I think it makes a difference to people that have to utilize this and are victims when we take their car. And the final thing was that we got rid of an administrative fee. Again, that's for your consideration, but our point was $20 for us to make a copy of a piece of paper for somebody. We thought was excessive, and again, you're victimizing somebody twice. So we omitted that. So I just wanted you to know that before you took a look at it to see if you're in agreement. The other thing, if you're interested, I know there was a few council people that had some concerns with some home situations we had, and I thought if I could, I'd alleviate some of your concerns. Briefly, I could let you know about some of the things we found out. There have been, we've had a lot more people that are unhoused lately. I think we're trending to 146 for this year, where only in 2020 we had 29 people. So it's a much bigger issue over the years. In fact, this month alone, we had as many as we had in 2020. Colwell Park has been one of the areas recently that some council members were aware of. JFK has been a spot. Even Bicentennial Park has been a spot where we've had to go. There's been tents set up. So I guess what I wanted to let you all know, and obviously it's council that sets the ordinances, so we're not purposely disregarding ordinances, but I have had our patrols being more selective with enforcing them because we're dealing with human beings that don't have much of a choice. We've encountered people that have been in tents in our parks, sleeping in the bathrooms, in the woods. Some of them on private property where we don't have much of a choice if the property owner says they can't stay here. But we always look to see what we can do for them. 90 to 95% of the places we call don't answer the phone. And then the majority of the rest of them, the numbers are wrong on the website to begin with. So it's been very difficult. So basically what we've been doing is we have not been making people leave the parks once it gets dark and the park is closed, if they're down on their luck, if they have nowhere to go. Now, we certainly don't just leave them there either. We look for ways to find them places, but a lot of times we can't. We'll check on them. Usually it only takes 2-3 days, and then usually we can find something. But occasionally, and you guys might hear more so than us, you get pushback from the surrounding residents. But again, we're dealing with human beings. I'm not comfortable with telling somebody, pack up your stuff and let's go. I mean, there's been tents where people want us to take them down and throw them in the trash. We're not going to do that. I mean, you can't do that. So I just want you to be aware that this is something that's been going on. I talked to Karen Weiss about one suggestion, and actually Phil and I also talked about it. In addition to homeless people, or some unhoused people being in the park, it's not an epidemic or anything, but there are certain parks that don't have bathroom facilities, and it would make it a lot easier if we had some porta potties, specifically in Colwell Park and JFK. I've personally seen, because I live near JFK and I walk my dogs, kids urinating in the open in the middle of the field because there's nowhere to go. People use these places. So I think it's a decent idea. I think Phil, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think he concurred that in general, it's something that he hears about a lot, and that it's a good idea to have those kind of facilities year-round that are taken care of. I guess one of the things I'm asking is I don't know that that's something, especially with so many people utilizing it, something that we really want to wait to budget for by next spring when we have people there right now. It might actually alleviate some of the complaints from area residents. We talk about how they feel bad for the people, but then they go in there and they start kicking their stuff around and throwing it away, because what they really don't want is they just don't want people there, and that's not much of an option. If you can't find a place to send somebody, you have to work with what you have. So I don't know if you have any other questions, but these are some of the things that came up that I thought I would just clear up.
There hasn't been a problem with campfires, has there? Because as we get into the dry season in the summer,
I know that somebody said that there were sticks configured, and we wouldn't let somebody do that because that's dangerous for everybody. What we have done, the police have done, is when it's cold out, if it's raining out, I'll tell our guys, unless the people refuse, we bring them back to our lobby, and they've stayed in our lobby. At least they have heat, air conditioning. I've bought cots and sleeping bags and portable heaters. We've utilized that a few times so that they don't do that. But in fact, we found a lot of stuff in the woods where you don't see it as normally, where you do see little campfires that we haven't seen them actually on fire, but we see that they've been utilized and there's tents out there. I think it's a little bit more prevalent than anybody realizes, because I think when people started asking questions, they thought there was just 1 or 2 people in Colwell Park, when in fact we've had them in several parks. We've had them on private property. We respond to businesses quite often where bankers come in, and in their ATM there's somebody that's sleeping in there, or that's relieve themselves in there. 24-hour gas stations, a lot of properties on the mall, underneath the overhangs, or and again, we treat them like they're not criminals, it's not a crime, it's somebody that needs help. The thing is, we're not finding it elsewhere. So we're trying to do what we can.
Thank you for that update. Any more questions or comments? I mean, I really appreciate that we are treating them humanely, and because they are people. And certainly they wouldn't be doing it if they had an alternative place to be, a shelter. So.
Yeah, one of the, I won't use her name, but I think some of you know, there's a woman on Germantown Pike near the mall who doesn't really want our help, but we've encountered her 7 times in the last 2 months. But one of the things she keeps saying, which it rings true, is she's waiting for the shelter at the mall, which is a Code Blue shelter. And she says, it's not cold out, but does anybody realize they still need a place to stay? You know, and it's a shame. That's why she's there all the time, because you're waiting for that to open, and it's not opening. But there's nowhere else around. That's the only place in this area that anybody's heard about. So we try and help her, but she has all her belongings, and if she asks for a ride, we'll give it to her, but that's about the extent of it. She doesn't want. She just wants a place to stay.
So, Chief, what is the closest, like proximity-wise, what are the closest resources? Like if people do get back to you, like where are their options?
Well, Mobile Crisis is nice, but that's not really something they can, housing isn't what they can do, but they do come out, they do get on the phone with people, they've been great. The Lamb Foundation was the only one that we were able to get, where the people that were at Colwell, we sent an elderly woman to the hospital because she was dehydrated. She was there for a few days, and the son was put up in a hotel with his dog for a couple of days. And they were working on doing something for them. But even area hotels where they've stayed before, when we tried to get them in there, they refused because they said, well, we've had issues with them. And I think the issues is they want money, and they had a dog, so that made it a little bit more difficult. It wasn't like they were doing anything wrong, but they don't want to be bothered either if they're not getting paid. I mean, it's a shame, but that's the reality.
I actually got a text from someone today because I get the calls on our Google Voice line for the Code Blue. I know who it is, and her option must have ran out. And she said, I think I'm going to have to come back to the Plymouth Meeting Code Blue shelter. And my response, well, Code Blue season is over. But like I have no other option to give her. Unfortunately, it's just once Code Blue season is officially over, the amount of beds that are available drops by like 100 something. It's like we lose like immediately like 120 beds. And I think part of the issue too is a lot of the people go to Norristown for some of their resources, but they don't want to stay there. They have had a lot of bad experiences in Norristown. And so they want to stay in a community where they're not, I guess, scared that stuff is going to get stolen and things like that.
They've been victims of crime.
Yeah, and I can't say I blame them.
And I think the park rangers, I found out, I was wondering why it's been increasing. They had cleared the bike path, so they moved all those people along. I found out until the county commissioners found out and told them to stop, but the damage had been done too. They moved them all along, so we had more. So you'll see some people, especially since we're out all night or early in the morning, they're sleeping on the hill in front of the mall, where along some of those businesses there. It's usually wherever it's septic run, so that it's easy access.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's not terrible because the weather's not bad, but it's also getting hot, and that's a concern.
Yeah.
Get pushed back from the mall.
Right. And Code Red is like last summer there were 3. The threshold is ridiculously high.
What is the threshold?
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I'm having that meeting tomorrow, so I'll let you know. But yeah. And are you saying that we're going to try to do the porta potties like now?
That's what I suggested to Karen Weiss, and that's the impression I got from Phil, that it's not a bad idea. I mean, it is spring and summer, so people are going to be there now. It's not an exorbitant cost, but if we're going to budget for next year, we're not going to see that until about this time next year,
Right.
that's a long time to wait for something that's just a common decency.
Right, and if we think people are having issues with it now, if they start finding like human feces in the park, that's gonna be a problem,
Yeah. Absolutely.
you know?
We'll get the prices and we can make it happen pretty quickly.
Which-
The plan for JFK Park, remember, get the grant for it, actually had a spot for porta potties, that they'd be secure there and even kind of shelter, they have them to the shore where there's fencing around, so they don't get tipped over as easy. And but aside all this discussion, I don't think people accept anymore that there's not restrooms in the parks. And I'm not talking about what we're talking about. I'm talking about people with small children. And even here, if they're not open by April 1st, they get angry. And in Caldwell, they get angry because they're locked. And, so I think it's an idea this time is coming. I just do. And it's not that expensive. It's a couple $100 a month, and it includes one cleaning a week. So, that should be enough. It isn't, we can look at it. If there's problems, you can lock them, right? Or get rid of them. And they can stay all year. They don't have to turn them off. I know townships that put porta potties when they turn the water off. So people are expecting that now. And I was going to bring it up with the budget anyway, so we're just a few months ahead of it. So we'll get some prices.
Which parks do you think need porta potties? Obviously, JFK.
I would start with JFK and Caldwell. We had one at Harriet Weatherall in the other parking lot.
Yeah, when there was some kind of bike
we had a
marathon.
resident that paid for that. He said, I want it there, and he sent us a check every month. He's not with us anymore. He's a very kind, generous gentleman, but he felt like there should be one there. So I would do...
Oh, down at Narcissa.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, nice guy. But anyway, I would do those two, see how much they are, give it a few months, and then we'll look if we want to put them elsewhere. The only park we have bathrooms are open 7 days a week during the day is here. So there's a lot of other places, but I think the chief and I kind of agreed on Caldwell and JFK. Start with that, and then we can certainly look at the budget if we want to put more resources into it if we need to. But I do believe people will use them, and I know they're going to appreciate them from some of the voicemails I've gotten. So, that's going to be better.
Well, as you say, even families will appreciate
They
it.
will, yeah. Come up with the parks board. Little guys are out there. We always forget to go before we go.
No, they don't, they say they don't have to go.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
when you get to the park, they
Right.
have to go.
Right. So now you don't have to go home, right? So, there's a lot of opportunity. I think this is a good spot to try it. Caldwell Park is busy. The pickleball courts, they'll be ready in a few weeks. The pavilion's there. Other people can use them, There's a volleyball league that plays on Tuesday. The soccer club uses it, so, alleviate the use of the bathrooms and the key and stuff, so we'll get working on it.
So Chief, if some of the unhoused folks are not like on someone's private property and there's no issue, do you believe that the residents close by won't be upset? I mean, if there's porta potties, people are minding their own business, no one's causing trouble, no one's on private property. I'm just wondering what we should anticipate hearing.
I anticipate you're going to hear complaints. People don't, at first they kind of mask their complaints as I'm concerned, but they're concerned that they're there. Whether they get help or not is another thing. There is no help. There's nothing. So, I guess what I'm trying to do is brace you for complaints and let you know it's not because we're doing nothing. We actually are doing something. We keep checking on them. We make sure that if they don't have something to eat, if we can't find it, we get it ourselves. Water. That woman had to go to the hospital because she was dehydrated. They were sleeping in that bathroom until it got locked. People don't want to see them there. Just like nobody, we had somebody waiting on somebody's lawn in the shade at a bus stop, and the resident called and said, I want him off my lawn. I can't tell the resident no, but it's tough, So you try the best way to find them another option. But at the end of the day, we're not leaving them there, and we're not helping them. So that's where the problem comes. If it comes down to it, I'm not taking somebody's tent down, and I'm not kicking them out of the park and saying, walk down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why I said when it comes down to it, if we have to, we've taken it back to our lobby, and we make sure that they have food and water, and they can out of the elements, and even if they have an animal with them. But that's not a great solution, but that's as best as we've been able to do.
Because really, if you're like, if we keep just pushing, like saying leave, then they go to another municipality and the same situation happens over again. So it's like a game of musical chairs for them.
Sure.
You know?
What about, I don't know if JFK has pavilions and rentals, but Colwell does.
Does.
So if,
JFK doesn't have rentals because there's no bathrooms.
okay. So if someone wants to, do people rent Colwell?
They do, usually 2 or 3 a weekend.
Okay, so-
Birthday parties.
If, and I'm sure like with graduations and there are a lot of different celebrating
Pavilions picked up
birthdays.
at COVID. After COVID, the pavilion numbers went up like 60% for the number of rentals. But yeah, JFK, there's just no bathrooms there, so we've never really rented it. It's a nice pavilion.
Okay, so I know that the family at Colwell was camping in the pavilion, so if someone wanted to rent the pavilion,
And that did happen for 2 days in a row. They were trying, now luckily, luckily, the mother went to the hospital, so she wasn't a concern. And a neighbor actually was able to put the young man, well, he's not a young man, he's my age, but him and his dog in a hotel.
Very young, very, very young.
Well, thank you. Is this publicly recorded?
it is, we'll get that in the minutes.
So he got a couple days in a hotel, and we tried our best to keep in touch, and I think the Lamb Foundation was still working with him, so I'm hoping that he got help, but it's tough once they're out of our jurisdiction to keep tabs and find out. But yeah, it was an issue that he couldn't stay there because somebody had already paid to use that.
So they,
They didn't have to leave the park, but they had to leave all that shade. It was hot. That was the
Yeah.
problem. But again, we brought him to our station when necessary. At least we offered him that, and he took us up on it.
so people will still be able to rent, and when they do, they will have priority. I mean, the people who are camping there.
It's not,
Would have
like I
to
said,
be.
not an epidemic or anything, but especially at nighttime and in the woods. And like I told you, we're trending to 146 already. We had as many in May that we had in all of 2020. So it's definitely every year it's doubling and then tripling and then quadrupling. It's a 500% increase this year from 2020. So, and it's not getting any better. There's been no facilities that have been offered by the county or the state. There's no money allocated, so it's not getting better.
Oh, there's money allocated for a facility, but the communities won't accept the facility.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and thank you for doing all the work on the fee schedule for towing and storage and for helping out the people who are victims as well, putting those exceptions in there. And obviously for all the work you're doing for the unhoused people who have nowhere else to go. Anything else, Chief? Okay. Engineering.
Nothing that
Oh, I skipped Public Works and Sewer. We have a memorandum of understanding for Sussex Square, which is they're going to be doing some drilling work on a new sewer line. And I guess I had a question that I think, Lonnie, you might have the answer for. It says that on paragraph 2, after the now therefore, it says, if the Sussex contractors inadvertently drill through the existing sewer line as part of the soil nail work, and then they are responsible. They're permitted to repair, and if they cannot, they'll be responsible for it. But it's my understanding that this sewer line is next to a retaining wall.
Yeah.
So is there any chance of damage being done to the retaining wall or something with the type of engineering work that's planned? Like, does this inadvertent drilling take care of any mishap that could occur?
Not to bail on the question, but Carroll Engineering is the ones that are the sewer engineers for the township, so I'm not real familiar with what's going on.
So I think
Chris?
the intent is, is that the Sussex is putting in a new sewer line in their parking lot that
Right.
the township will eventually be having other sewer lines connect into. But one of the reasons that they're doing that in their parking lot, and they're going to be giving the township an easement over that line, is that they need to repair the retaining wall. But in order to do that, they have to deal with the existing sewer line, and the only way they can stabilize that is by using the soil nails. So while they're attempting to repair the retaining wall, if they hit and damage any of the existing sewer line, they're going to have to immediately, if it's not repairable, they're going to have to immediately connect to the new sewer line that they're building that is going to be brand new construction. And then that determination will be made by Alan Mason from Carroll in what is considered a successful repair, whether they're able to continue using that existing sewer line.
So I guess there would be somebody on site the whole time to evaluate the construction and make sure that...
Once Carroll became aware that they were starting to work on site, they've been there.
Yeah, okay.
And-
So it's
and-
It's pretty much, the sewer line is visible right down, it's like 8 feet from the wall.
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't know where it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty locked down.
Okay, I get it now.
And both Karen and Alan Mason have reviewed this agreement.
Great, thank you. And so, this is something that we will need to vote on?
Yes.
And is this being done by Mike or by one of us?
Anyone can take it and just summarize, or if you want it to go to Mike, and Mike can summarize it. If you want to assign Mike, we can give him more to read.
Okay, I
He's
guess
not
we
here
could,
to object.
I mean, it's in your district, right, so it's the compartments, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to summarize it if that's helpful.
you want to do it?
Sure.
All right, so Lynn will take that. Anything else under Public Works? Are you working on the gigantic trash cans that weigh more than the weight limit of?
Yeah, we're working.
Okay, still work in progress. All right, under subdivision and land development, we have, well, the first one that needs action is F, but I'm wondering about E, which expires June 30th. So this next Monday is the last opportunity to either extend or deny, otherwise it'll get deemed approval.
So Karen reached out to them and asked for an extension letter last Friday. If they don't grant it, then we will have to take action. And we will have a resolution prepared, but we're anticipating that they grant another extension.
So there'll either be an extension to vote on or
Or
a resolution.
or a
correct?
resolution for
Right,
consideration.
so that would be you, Lynn.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we have that extension, that will be for Lynn. And I think there's going to have to be action on E regardless.
Yes, there will be action on A.
Okay. All right, then we have an extension for the Outback Steakhouse.
That's
That
me.
is Aaron. And the Rich Pike Car Wash is also yours, Aaron?
That's actually going to be a resolution. That's going to be Mike.
Oh, all right.
Ah,
My next question was what?
So that's going to be Mike?
Yep, there's a resolution that we'll prepare for that.
Okay. Okay, code enforcement.
Only got one thing for you.
Okay,
It's not in your book tonight, but we've been doing some digitizing, so I'm going to have 20 cubic feet of records disposal requests next week
oh,
for you to sign off on.
okay. Anyone want to read that?
I'll do it.
All right, Aaron. Who would like to read the list of zoning hearings?
I will.
Caught Nick's eye.
Oh, you want them? No, I don't, I'm not desperate to read them.
Okay. Fighting over it. All right, and then we have zoning hearing board alternate resolution. I know that we voted on the appointment, but it turns out that actually we're required to put the alternate on by a resolution. So we have that resolution here, be ready to be read. Anyone?
I'll take that since I
Okay.
suggested. Ready?
Okay. Parks and Recreation, Phil.
It's concert and movie season, so people out to those. Some other special events coming up. Just put a new brochure out today.
I received that in my email. Me too.
We went back from 3 year to 4 years, so there's some more opportunities.
Okay.
Lots going on.
And Township Day had a lot of new events and vendors and a petting zoo, and it was really incredible.
We're still adding up the beans. It looks like it'll probably be the biggest one ever. Weather was great. A lot of help with publicity from the police. And Jim helped us take the signs down. Police helped us put them up. And I think with everything else, it's a busy time of year. There's a lot of graduation parties and stuff.
Sure.
And Joanna worked with those folks so people knew. I think it went a long way. And then Rick's crew helped us set up. So it was a good team effort.
And Conshohocken runs its event on the same
Yes,
day,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I have to tell you, ours is a lot of fun,
Good.
especially for the kids. I mean, so much.
It was flawless. I mean, I was there at the front. We had a new system for taking credit cards. That worked well. So we were able to get everybody in and out quicker. So we had a good time. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very well run.
Thank you.
I had a good time.
Oh, good.
And every child I saw was really excited. All right, who would like to read the upcoming events for Parks and Recreation?
I'll do it.
Yeah, Aaron, okay. I don't have anything under planning and development. And then under miscellaneous, we will be announcing our citizen board vacancies. Anyone want to take that?
Sure, I'll take it.
Kristen will take that. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Leave anybody out?
I had one thing I wanted to mention.
Sure.
I should have noticed this when I came in, but I came in the side, not the front, Phil. Is our pride flag up yet?
Yeah.
Ah.
June 1st. Yeah, it actually went up in May this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I was just
good
going
out
to
there.
suggest like doing a like a little ceremony, something that we could
You're on.
actually,
Like a flag raising.
you know, a little flag
Yeah.
raising
We'll do that
and
next year.
Yeah, that would
Absolutely.
be nice.
Thank you for suggesting it. You want to do it here, or you want to do it somewhere else?
I think it's fabulous
Well,
to do
when
it
we
here,
have
but we
township
could.
building by next year to do that.
Well, we raise it at both places,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking
We'll make it
that
happen.
more people come to the community center
They do.
Yeah.
to gather.
Yeah.
This year, next year.
Um,
Good question.
So So I don't know, something I think
You're on.
talk about with the Parks
Absolutely.
Board, with the
That'd be great,
Senate.
thank
You
you.
could also
I don't wanna
alternate
steal
it
your
because you
thunder to
have
talk about.
June is
Oh.
Pride Month.
Yeah.
but
Not my
National
thunder.
It's a
Pride
nice
Day
flag,
in
great
October.
flag, and ours, we're gonna get some
So
new
you
ones.
could also do something
Ours are
about-
getting, yes.
That's great. I mean, it's a nice thing.
If we
And it's
wanted
just
to have
the,
something
why not
special.
publicize
Right.
it and
Right,
have
exactly.
have a little celebration around it.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you,
Do a
Phil.
ceremony.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Should we bring that up at the next Parks Board meeting?
Want to put it on the agenda?
Sounds good. Okay, and I guess it's also flying at the Township Building, right? Flag? Yeah, must, both went up right before the weekend. All right, thank you. Do we have,
We do have an exec session.
we do have an exec session, so